This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of September 18th, 2022. What's on my mind this week? Room temperature takes from Content Marketing World 2022. One of my favorite events of the year, Content Marketing World, just came to an end. It has come and gone. So let's do some room temperature takes on the big themes and my reactions to them. And why room temperature takes? Because hot takes implies, rapid and vigorous reactions, and these are neither. These are long after the event is over, and nothing really objectionable. So first up, Robert Rose from his keynote talk. The quote that stuck out for me from him was, "Even search is inefficient now. TikTok has conditioned us and our audiences that good content will be delivered to us automatically." Robert's TikTok example is really amplified by so many trends right now. I mean, think about in SEO, Google's one-box search results, right? Featured snippets, other delivery mechanisms. That's been causing zero-click search results for 5 years now, more and more every year. Rand Fishkin talked about this back in 2018, how Google was taking more and more clicks for itself because they just put the content in front of the customer. They deliver it to the customer. And as a result, the customer doesn't have to go to our website. Facebook and Instagram, of course, are mimicking the TikTok method of just delivering what they think is the best content for us. And even, honestly, even the venerable newsletter, right? The newsletter comes to you. You don't have to go and get this newsletter. It comes to you. Everything is about reducing friction. And nothing reduces friction faster between the creator and the consumer, like giving the consumer what they want before they have to ask for it. So the key takeaway question for you and I is, where else can we get rid of friction? Where else can we deliver just as a customer's brain is thinking about wanting something, but before they actually have to go in and do it? The takeaway from Drew Davis: here, the simple strategy of just answering obvious questions is badly outdated because it's low-value commodity content. Instead, answer rarely asked questions. Now, Drew's premise for content marketing is to create content for specific, narrow personas at the top of the org chart instead of broad content that's a commodity, like frequently asked questions for junior practitioners. The content he's proposing has little to no SEO value, right? You're creating content for like an audience of one because only a handful of these people are searching for something, but it can have enormous impact if you can get it to them. So in some aspects, the main concept from his talk, creating narrow content, it's very reminiscent of category design, right? Where you're trying to identify very niche ideas and blow them out into something big, like inbound marketing, for example. From Joe Palitzi's session, lease space, add new content to existing feeds and audiences instead of creating new properties, almost like advertorial. Now, this is a common sense tactic that we see, especially big YouTube channels like First We Feast enact with great success. They have Burger Scholar, they have Hot Ones, the interview show, Truth or Dab, and like 4 or 5 other shows, but on one YouTube channel. So instead of trying to create a new property, setting up a new audience from scratch, they just use their existing inventory and their audiences. There's no limit to the number of shows they can publish on YouTube. I do the same thing in my YouTube feed. You'll see several different shows for one audience. There's You Ask, I Answer. There's Mind Readings. There's So What, and some travel-related stuff. If I split all those shows up into their own channels, I'd just fragment my audience everywhere, and I would never get to the platform metrics that YouTube rewards, right? So Joe's suggestion is do the reverse. Consolidate, 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 and even consider incorporating related content from others with their permission in your feed if it's relevant, right? Building alliances of content so that you're not all fighting the algorithms independently. Ann Hanley's session, brand voice test. If you cover up the logo, can someone tell it's your content? This is the classic white label test that we've been talking about for over a decade. I went back and looked, and the first post I had on this was back in 2010. And yet, no one's doing it. Right? Few brands do this well. Ask yourself this. If you didn't know your company's newsletter or blog, if it didn't come from your company, does it read like it could be your competitors? Does your competitors read like it could be yours? If that's the case, you haven't really nailed your brand voice. Right? Your brand voice should be distinct to you. And this is something that, this is a tip. I actually suggested this to Anne after her talk because her talk was really good. But she doesn't do video in her newsletter. She's her twice a month newsletter, Total Anarchy, is text only. And I said, when it comes to voice, your brand voice, reading your newsletter aloud, which is what I'm doing right here, reading your newsletter aloud will help you identify all the things that you would naturally want to say in your newsletter, but you didn't write down. So it aligns it more closely with your actual voice. And that's a tip you can try as well. Read aloud your content and then think about all the other stuff that, you know, pops into your head, or things you ad-lib in the recorded version, like this entire paragraph, that isn't in the written version you put in together in the first place. That's how you find a voice, by literally using your voice to bring out more in your content. From Mike Alton's session, the key to high volume content creation, idea capture on any device at any time. Never let an idea get away. Mike's session was on how to 10x your blogging. And these days, with the advent of smartwatches and smartphones and smart speakers and, you know, smart everything like this, smart refrigerators, there's literally no excuse at all to let an idea vanish on you. Capture it somehow. I'm a big fan of the free app called Joplin. Go to joplinapp.org. It's open source, totally free. It syncs across all my devices. I can face roll my ideas into a central repository, anywhere, anytime, and it all goes to one place. Super important. From Mark Harrison's talk, a vision statement is a vision. You can see it, you can chase it, but you never catch it. I love that. I love that description of what a vision is, because, yeah, a vision is something that you see. You can't grab a hold of it, but it's supposed to lead you somewhere. Give that one some thought. From Ashleychman, relationships are not campaigns. Stop treating influencer programs as one-off initiatives. This point grinds on me for more than just influence. There's a conference that sets up new communities before every single major event. They invite everybody who's registered to come join our community, network before the event and stuff like that. And then they promptly abandon those communities the moment the closing keynote is done. Why do they do that? Well, because the organizers no longer see that community as something they can harvest for revenue. And they start really pushing hard at the event. It's like, hey, join our paid community over here instead. So they go to create all these relationships and help foster relationships until the money stops for them, and then they abandon it. Now, to be clear, it's fine to ask for money, but don't bait and switch people. Ask for money up front so people know what they're getting into. And when you're working with influencers, yeah, it's fine to pay influencers. It's good to pay influencers. It's good to pay people to do work for you. But if the relationship is only about money, then the relationship is only good until the money stops, right? And there are, plenty of paid professions that are like that. But if you want to build something for the very long term, you might want to focus on the relationship and not the campaign. From Andy Crestadina's session, this aphorism I thought was amazing. Specificity correlates with conversion. Andy's talk, as usual, was filled with practical advice, but I thought this aphorism was especially useful because how many things do we have on our websites? Mine included. My hands up. I'm just as guilty as everybody else here. But how many things do we have on our sites and our marketing collateral that's just generic, right? If you go back to Anne's talk, if you covered up the context on a page, could an audience member tell what the value was? Does the button on your form say contact us? That doesn't really say anything, and it's a little self-centered too, right? Get help with your marketing analytics today would be a much more specific button, right? If you click on this, you're going to get help with your marketing analytics today. And if you cover it up and that was all you could see, you know, at least you're not on Home Depot's website, right? Home Depot's not going to have get help with your marketing analytics, but they might have contact us. So that was really, I thought, just a great, very compact takeaway. From my talk was about content attribution. It's about what content works. Channel attribution is about where content works. Content is the ingredient, and the channel is the cooking method. And Like with all cooking, you need good ingredients and good methods to deliver. Now, I'll be blunt. I felt like my talk went poorly. Despite rehearsal, it was shorter than I wanted it to be, and I feel like the key points were muddled. So that talk is going back into the shop for reworking and remodeling. It needs some editing to get it cleaned up. And maybe another time we can talk about what happens when a talk doesn't go well. What do you do with it? Do you just park it and say, forget about that, we're never doing that again? Or is there a there and it can be repaired, it can be upgraded? Most of the time it's the latter. If you have good editors and good constructive critics. One final observation from Content Marketing World as a whole, and from evidence in my session specifically, I feel like marketing has rebooted, and not in a good way. Listening to questions, listening to people, conversations in the halls, I felt like the overall audience had lost a lot of institutional knowledge, that the audience wasn't as advanced in their marketing journey as they were prior to the pandemic. I was at Content Marketing World in 2019. This is the first one I've been back to. Big difference. For example, I asked at one point in my talk, how many people, show of hands, were familiar with Google Analytics UTM parameters? Almost every hand in the room went up. I was like, great, awesome. Then I asked how many people use them consistently and regularly, and I went like this, right? I lost 95% of the hands. Using UTM tracking codes dates back to 2005, right? This is in no way a new concept, and yet the audience wasn't following through on even the most basic of marketing automation tasks. We lost the basics, right? There were a lot of new faces at the show, a lot of new faces, a lot of new people, and that means that a lot of institutional knowledge has churned. There was a lot of turnover. There was one company at the conference that let 11% of its workforce go while their employees were at the conference, right? Just massive, rapid turnover. And when people turn over, when teams turn over, you lose that institutional knowledge. And now you're sending employees back, $2,100 per head to a conference armed with not even the basics. So I feel like we've moved backwards. And this is bad news for marketing, especially for marketing operations. Marketing is not getting easier or less complex, right? It's getting more complex, more confusing, more options, more tools every single day. But if, because of churn, if our ability to work in challenging, complex environments has diminished, then on the one hand, complexity is going up, and on the other hand, our ability to handle complexity is going down. That is not a recipe for success. So that was my final takeaway from Content Marketing World. It was an alarming one. There's a lot of trouble in marketing, and I think sooner rather than later that's going to come home to roost. So what else is happening in the newsletter this week? Besides, of course, the usual plugs for the Google Analytics Force. Of course, we've got a ton of new articles. The one I recommend, I wrote a piece on the impact of AI on content marketing and what it means. Short version, it's not good news if you're not especially skilled at content marketing. Automation and recession, word of mouth differences by generation, social listing for small business, and a fun question that I heard that I wanted to answer was what CMOs want from agencies. So we got that stuff going on. Some new jobs coming out this week. We have analytics engineer at Gorilla. I almost misread that as analytics Gorilla. It's not. It's an analytics engineer. Digital analyst at Unique, digital insight analyst at the National Deaf Children's Society, e-commerce analytics at Triazens, PPC manager at Greenbaum Steers, product marketing manager at Particle Health, senior analytics engineer at Drumline, senior automation developer at CBC Radio Canada, senior data analyst at Datier, staff engineer at Flip. If you've got an open job position that you are hiring for, pop on over to the Analytics for Marketers Slack group. Go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. There's a job openings channel. Post the job opening in there with a publicly available URL, and it will make it into this newsletter. Advertisement. If you did not catch my new study on the rise of private social media, the study's called Members Only. Go get your copy. It's in the newsletters at the top and in the middle. It's free, but it will help illuminate the topic of private social media communities, particularly on services like Slack and Discord. What's in the news from your stuff? We have chatbot examples, Instagram automation, some commentary that Facebook/Meta's stock has lost 61% of its value in 12 months, which is a pretty big slide, but not terribly surprising. TikTok and content marketing. Google says word count is not a sign of thin or unhelpful content, which is a nice little useful tidbit there. We have keyword gap analysis, AI tools for high-frequency algorithmic trading, if you want to get into trading stocks, Twitter analytics, and DuckDB. If you have the opportunity to, pop on over to u24.ua.gov. That's it's u24.gov.ua. The Ukraine Humanitarian Fund. As the conflict goes on and Ukraine is making some pretty exciting advances, they are now having to clean up the massive mess that the Russians have left behind and need financial support to do so. Coming up in events, October, pumpkin season. It will be at the Marketing Profits B2B Forum. Excited to be doing an 8-hour workshop there with my friend and partner, Katie Robert. And then I'll be doing a talk on private social media. And then HeapCom in Belgrade, Serbia in November. So looking forward to getting on the road for that. Thanks for tuning in. However you got this, I appreciate your attention. We'll talk to you next week. Stay safe. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.